PWCC is a great way to sell your sports cards. If you're looking for a way to support the Cajun Cardboard YouTube channel, consider using the promo code Cajun, all caps, CAJUN, when you're selling your cards on the PWCC marketplace. Hey guys, Brian with Cajun Cardboard coming at you from the great state of Louisiana, and I have a very special guest today, a good friend of mine in the hobby, and he's younger than me, significantly younger than me, but a mentor to me in the hobby, and he's either going to get all the credit or all the blame for my absurd passion for collecting Michael Jordan cards. Chris from Cardladder, Chris McGill, Chris Hoge, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Brian. Really appreciate you having me. You don't look a day over 70, man. So
really I have the face of an old catcher's mitt, but the body of a Ferrari, Chris. You can't tell because I'm, only.
I have. I've seen you in person. You have the physique of a young man, Brian.
That's right. But I'm brittle. I'm like Corey Maggette. Like I look like a Ferrari, but I got the engine of like a Volkswagen. I'm always injured. But it's looks that matter, right? At least in the hobby it is, right? Aesthetics. We're going to talk about aesthetics of cards today.
Right. It's one of your 4 factors was aesthetics.
The 4 factors, that's right. So you heard the intro. I appreciate you listening to that. It was really important for me to get that out there because what I didn't want is I didn't want somebody to say, you got it all wrong. This one's worth this much. This one's worth this much. This is one of those safe spaces where we're going to talk about what cards look like and just which cards you want, which cards you like, why you like them, stories behind them, how you collected them. But first, we'll give a little introduction. Everybody probably by now knows who you are. I use your brainchild, your invention, Cardladder, for almost every video I do. It was a humongous. Cardladder was absolutely indispensable for me to put this product together.
I know how hard it is, though, to crop those images. I've tried to do it before. I know what it takes.
Oh, not fun, right? And you can't control, Chris, y'all on Cardladder, you're just taking the pictures that people posted when they sold the card. It's not like Cardladder creates the images. So I'm, scrolling through, this one's good, this one's bad. This doesn't even look like the card. Some of the pictures are terrible. No wonder it sold for less than comps. This guy can't take a picture of a $10,000 Jordan card. What the hell is wrong with this guy? It was fun, but it was, it was fun. It was a lot of work, but it was fun. And we're still not done. We talked about that before we jumped on. But Cardladder was indispensable. So thank you for creating it. We were talking about this before I hit the record button, Chris. You're one of the primary reasons that I got into collecting Jordan cards in the first place. I was one of those buy low, sell high guys. I was what you would call I'm not going to call myself a flipper, but I was a buy, grade, hold, then sell. We're not going to say flip. We're going to say sell down the road. So I would hold for a few years. That's what brought me into the hobby, the investment side of it. And then I stumbled upon your House of Jordan videos, and the passion in this Michael Jordan situation has turned me into, now I think I'm significantly more of a collector than I am an investor. As long as the card I don't think it's going to go down, I need it. So probably not a good investor mindset, but it's a great collector mindset. So,
well, Brian, I remember first becoming acquainted with you. You sent a message over Facebook, old school style.
Yeah.
And it was an amazing message. It was one of those messages that when you're a content creator and you receive it, it gives you the energy knowing that you're connecting to other like-minded people. It just gives you the energy to keep going. And and then now I look at what you've built now, and I would say that the Cajun Cardboard community is the central hub for Michael Jordan collecting in the content space today. You've taken the Michael Jordan baton and you've carried it to a new height. And it's just amazing to see you do it. And now for you to undertake this project, which is sort of like, it's a great intellectual exercise, but it's also giving back. As you said, it's providing a resource that just didn't exist before this. So I love it, man. It's an honor to be on here with you.
I appreciate you joining me. You started it. I'm just kind of taking the baton and running with it. And maybe one day, like you said, I'm old as hell. So maybe run one day, a young guy that's watching this video today, Chris, maybe my grandson will take the baton and run with it a little bit more, right? And improve on what we're doing here. But this is going to be an exercise in futility because we're trying to look at the greatest Michael Jordan cards in the history of mankind. And you're following Nat Turner and Josh Dawson. So no No pressure
So
there.
my apologies to the audience. This is going to be quite
Right. My apologies too, right? Just all in all, let's just bow down to those two guys who have absolutely otherworldly collections. I consider you, Chris, before we get, and I know we're talking a lot before we get to the stuff that everybody wants to see here. Let's at least put it on the screen so we can tease people for a little while. There you go. We're going to talk about tier one. I consider you one of the experts in macro, sort of the macro perspective of the hobby. And, that comes from Cardladder and the Cardladder indexes. It's something that's fascinating to me. I always say this. I'm not an economist. I'm not even really an attorney anymore, right? I try, but I'm more of a business owner who also practices law and collects Jordan cards. But where are you at on the hobby right now? If you had to kind of give a 5-sentence summary of where we are in the hobby, and I know that's hard because there's basketball, there's hockey, there's Pokemon, there's this and that. What, I'm not going to ask you what inning it is, right? Because you know how silly that analogy is. But kind of just your summary, because you look at these indexes every day. Where are we at?
Yeah, it's a great question. And you know what, though? I'm going to, instead of trying to answer it in a general sense, because I think we have data that can try to speak to that. And the data basically says, like, if you look at the Cardladder 50 index, which is the main index that we've created to represent iconic cards in, price ranges that are not astronomical. And there's 50 cards in there that are to that effect.
Sure.
That index has been flat, or maybe it's up 1 or 2% over the last 3 months. And I think, like, maybe broadly, that's probably what the data shows. We just put a new panel on the Cardladder, on the Cardladder user experience as well. It's called Industry.
Yeah, I heard about that.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So Industry is showing you sales volume metrics for the secondary market writ large. So, like, you can kind of see there, if we look here at the last 6 months, this is the aggregate sales volume for trading cards on the secondary market. And it's been pretty flat. It's been somewhere in the neighborhood of 170 to 185 million in monthly volume. So that's kind of how that's the data that I would point to give a snapshot of the state of the market right now. But if I were to answer in a different way, if I were to say, well, what's my experience as a collector right now? How am I interpreting the industry? How am I interpreting collecting at this time? For me, it's ebbs and flows. When I get a grail card on my radar, it doesn't matter if the market is scorching hot or if it's cool as a cucumber. Right. I am on cloud 9 for about a month. And then, it's on to the next. It's what's the next chase? And so right now, I've been flirting with making some moves on some big cards, but the prices are just they feel high to me, which, like, as a collector, that's like, all right, well, the cards I'm looking for, they just seem a little bit high right now. So that's a little bit deflating. But in terms of what does that say about the health of the market, probably says it's pretty good.
Yeah.
If the cards that I'm looking for feel out of reach, it's bittersweet. I hate that there's great cards that I can't get, but that's the bitter part of it. But the sweet part of it means that we're probably in a decent place market wise, if that is the case.
I hear what you're hitting at. I know what you're hitting. I mean, you just took 5 minutes to say, I'm thinking about starting an Olajuwon collection. Is that what I'm hearing, basically? Right? I mean, how long do you have to dance around it, right?
Yeah, no, the thing that's most discouraging about that is just, how am I going to find the grail? How am I going to find the tier 1 Olajuwons? Like, I would want to go out and, maybe trade or sell some of my current collection if it would require it to get like an Olajuwon PMG green. But where the hell am I going to find one? That card came out 25 years ago. They just don't come out.
Have you ever seen one?
I've never seen an Olajuwon.
I've never seen one. Never.
And
Never
like,
seen one.
and I missed the opportunity. The 98 Ultra Masterpiece Purple 1/1 Elijah was on eBay 6 to 8 months ago, and I just somebody else bought it, and now it's just like it's so discouraging because I would want to go out there and get those tier 1 Elijah ones, but it's just like you just start thinking about it, and you're like, man, where the heck am I going to find them?
Where are you going to find them? That's the Jordans. They may be out of reach. A lot of these that we're about to talk about, but you'll see them. The only two that I personally haven't seen in person are the 2 greens, the Essential Credentials Now and the PMG green. I don't consider those ever within reach for me personally. The rest of the cards, a lot of them are going to take a lot of work, but they're within reach. Those are the 2 that are just, preposterous. And of course, the starting 5, which we probably won't talk too much about it, but also out of reach, but for totally different reasons. But you're right. Like, I haven't never seen an Olajuwon PMG green. I've never seen Olajuwon Credentials Now. I do remember when that 1/1 Masterpiece Olajuwon showed up, and we even talked about it, right? Yeah. And we sort of acknowledged it was there, and we were kind of, being compelled to at least take a little closer look. And then I don't even remember what it sold for. You remember what it sold for, probably
$15,000, I want to say.
That's nuts.
Yep.
What's the cheapest 90s Jordan 1/1 Masterpiece sell for? I have no clue because I've never seen one, but guess.
Sheesh.
More than that?
I mean, we're talking, I think if you saw one of the half dozen or so Jordan Masterpiece 1/1s, whether it's one of the Legacy collections or one of the 2 or the 3 Ultras, you're
no less than $250,000, Chris. No way.
I think
more.
I mean,
agreed. I was being conservative. You and I both know 20 people that would move heaven and earth to go chase any Jordan 1/1 Masterpiece. And how many of them are there? 8? No.
Something in that ballpark. I mean, I guess there's I think there's 3 Legacy collections, 3 Ultras, because you have the 97 Ultra, the 97 Ultra subset, 98 Greats, and then you have the 98 Ultra Purple. So you have those 3. Then you have 3 Legacy collections. You have the Precious Metal Gems Gem Masters 1/1,
yes,
which I think is Michael Jordan's best card ever.
Best card. Agreed.
So 7. And then it depends, like, if we want to go into those Stanley Upper Deck.
No, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing all that. I'm not doing all that, Chris. No, right. We're not getting into Stanley kittens. No kittens, no foreign cards, no oddballs. That's part of the rules. And now's a great time to segue. You led us right there. Just so everybody's on the same page, if you missed the introduction to what we're even talking about today, which we haven't even started, it's the Michael Jordan Hierarchy Project. Last Wednesday on July 5th, I released an intro video. It was a cover my ass video. It listed the rules. It listed the criteria to be included. No autographs, no memorabilia, no 1/1 masterpieces, because these mythological cards that Chris and I just got done talking about, we don't consider them attainable because you just don't see the cards. And so they're not included in here. If we were to include autographs, memorabilia, you'd see Game Jersey Auto on the screen that you see right now. You would see all of the 1/1 masterpieces. They're just not included. If you want those to be included, go do your own project. Simple. Okay. So let's talk about tier 1, Chris. Let's talk about the cards on our screen. I'll start with the same question I asked Nat, the same question I asked Josh. The first question out of my mouth is going to be, which of these cards do you have? I know 2 of them you have because I also have them, and we're brothers in that way. We're Jordan collecting brothers in that way because they're both of our babies. But what cards do you have? Surprise me with something other than the 2 that I know you have.
Yeah, well, all right. Well, let's just let's go row by row. So okay. I do have a PMG red. I have a Molten Metal Fusion Titanium out of 40.
Where's my screen share? Show me the Cardladder screen share. This is your chance to plug your company. I'm gonna plug it for you. I love you guys. Christina would hate you for not pulling your Cardladder screen up. I'm about to screen share. So we're gonna show the world what it looks like.
Can you see? Okay, sorry. All right, can you see? Okay. All right, so we have the PMG red, which that was on row 1.
Yes.
Then the next one I saw was this, the Molten Metal Fusion Titanium out of 40.
Oof.
Then this, I believe, was on row 1 as well.
Yes.
Which is the Golden Boss Refractor out of 74. Next, we have the Rubies.
I had no idea you had that right there. First of all, let's just stop the freaking video.
There's a story behind this one.
No shit. Yeah, it's like you're keeping it a secret. So tell us the story behind it. That is That is a monster. That is damn near as good as it gets. Talk to us about that card. Tell us the story behind it.
Okay, so this card, so this was the summer of 2019, and I was in between my second and third year of law school, which means I was doing a summer associate program. And, as a summer associate, you are paid handsomely to
Do nothing.
not get in the way.
Get the hell out of the way. Don't stand out for bad reasons, right?
Yes, exactly. It's like they're like, okay, we want you here. This is fun, but like, really though, don't mess anything up and just try to not make any messes.
That's right.
And so one day I was in my shared office and I didn't have anything to do, and so I was just getting ideas in my head. And this exact card had come to auction in raw form from a seller in Minnesota. And it was running at auction and it kept running up and up in price. And I just said, let me and this is a faux pas. Don't do this. All right. This pissed off a lot of people and I shouldn't have done it, but I did it. I messaged the seller and I said, what would it take for you to just sell this to me and end the auction? And let me remind you, audience members, people do not like it when I did this, but I did it. And the guy gave me the price, which I think was 20 grand.
Oh my God.
I said, you know what? If I pile up all my summer associate earnings and sell a bunch of cards, maybe I can do this.
What was this? 1976? Are you serious? 20 grand for the best star rubies?
I know. It was a shot in the dark, because I was also worried I wouldn't be able to win it at auction. So,
Chris, how'd you know it was real back then?
True to the advice that you gave, which I think is great advice, on an earlier episode, I consulted with people who are experts. And I got input on the serial number, how does it look? How does the cards colors look, the print quality look, the paper quality look, stuff like that. And you can never be sure, but I was confident enough. And I also was confident that if something went poorly, that I'd rectify the situation and that the seller would make it right as well. So I sold a bunch of MJ cards, which is always painful because at that time I was really still, into inserts quite a bit.
Yes. And
I had to sell a lot of them. And so I kind of did this like fundraise where I sold these inserts and I was in Los Angeles and I couldn't make it out to Minnesota where the card was. So my brother, who lives in Northern Illinois, who at the time was self-employed, he took the time out of his schedule to make the drive to the Twin Cities, which is a half a day drive, to go to a bank and meet the person who was selling the card and do the deal. And they put me on FaceTime, and I was there as they counted the money and did the deal. There's a police officer present, it was
amazing.
It was quite the journey, man.
That is an absolute monster. Unbelievable. Dude, I didn't know. So another, a word to the wise. We've talked about it on prior episodes. I talk about it on my channel all the time. You know as much about Jordan cards as damn near anybody that I communicate with on a regular basis. If you were going to buy, let's go back and say you're going to buy the rubies right next to it, right? You're like, you know what? I'm going to pair them up. I'm going to buy this dark rubies right here, right next to it, serial number to 50. Would you buy that you would still consult the same oracle. You consult the same people. You would never feel comfortable making that call on your own, whether or not that was an authentic star rubies. Would you?
No, unless not to shill for the parent company of Cardladder, but
it's okay. Hey, as long as you say what you're doing, you can say it. So say it, because I would say the same thing, and I don't work for them. If it's in a PSA slab, you're safe with the buyback guarantee. Yeah,
that gives me a lot of confidence. If it were in a PSA slab, I would I would have a heightened level of confidence because of the buyback guarantee. Which goes up to a ceiling of $250,000. FYI, if people are interested in reading about that guarantee,
Yeah.
there's information on PSA's website about it, some of the limitations and restrictions. But that would give me more confidence for sure if it was in a PSA slab. So, but even if it was, I would still want to consult with a few people just to get their opinions on it. But that's a dangerous game too, Brian, because if I'm consulting with a fellow MJ collector,
you better pick the right one.
and I inadvertently bring to their attention that this card is available.
Yeah. Hey, look, don't consult with me about it. If you see that, Rubies, don't consult with me. I'm just warning you right now. I'm just kidding. You wouldn't consult with me because I've already told everybody who will listen, I cannot spot reals from fakes in any of the Jordan cards. So
I'm the same as you. I don't have the eye necessarily.
It's not worth it.
For spotting counterfeits or for grading for that matter either.
Same. Yeah. I think I know. I should know by now because you and I both should know by now. We've graded 20,000 plus cards. We don't. Like, there is no rhyme or reason. I am oftentimes off by 2 grades, one way or the other, and I never know. Go back real quick. Show your serial number to 74 Golden Bossed. You Chris, this episode's going to come out after Nat's episode, but you have to watch the episode with Nat Turner because he has a terrible story about his Golden Bossed refractor, which looks very similar to ours now, but did not look similar to ours when he put it in his safe. It changed within his safe, within the slab. And when he pulled it out, he was shocked. And he's actually got, and it's a great part of the video, he's got the before and after pictures because he's got the picture of when he put it in his safe, and then he's got the picture when he took it out of his safe, and it doesn't even look like the same card, Chris. So a sobering thought for people that own not just that card, but other refractors. We've talked about it forever. It's not the light. It's just not. It's not the light. It's not exposure to light. Can exposure to light change a card? Of course, but it's not a prerequisite. Cards sometimes change for other reasons that are beyond my control. I'm not a NASA scientist, and I don't know what oxidation means or humidity or any of that stuff. But there's other factors that can change the look of specifically usually refractor type cards.
Sure. Yep. Okay. Well, I think I have 2 more.
Keep going. Yeah, I want you to finish because. Give me your 2 more, and then I want to ask you a question about that platinum medallion.
Yes. So the 2 more from tier 1 are the 2 legacies. Mm-hmm. So this is the 97-98 row 1, which I think is one of the best looking legacies. It looks so different than the others because of the shimmer finish. It's the only one that has what Panini eventually dubbed the shimmer finish.
For sure.
And then the other one I have is the 96 row 2, which scans well, but in hand is just gorgeous. And this one is neat because it's row 2 is the true base set from 96 Flair Showcase. So this is, this is the first legacy collection Michael Jordan in the sense that it's the parallel to the true base set.
The base card looks like that card, but it's not serial number to 100, and it doesn't have the bright, vibrant electric blue. I did not know that. Yeah, yes. That's great stuff. I had no idea. So that's the true parallel to the base.
Yes. Yep.
Okay. Are you sure? Do you want to flip that over and make sure it's not the base?
Let's see here. I do have that ability. Oh, good. All right.
Thank goodness. Right. Never thought to check the back. It is after all, legacy collection. All right. Let's talk about your platinum.
Okay. So I have 2. So this is the 98, and then I have the 97.
Love it. And those are my 2 favorite. And I've got 1, but I don't have the 97. So my question for you is this, and I actually had it all in my notes because I've asked Nat the same question I asked Josh. I had to choose. Right? I basically chose all the legacy collections and left off all the platinum collections. Do you think the platinums should trump the legacies, or do you think the legacies should trump the platinums? And there's one more option. Does it just depend? And maybe tier 1 should have been a mix of the legacy and the platinum, just depending on the particular card. What are your thoughts on legacies versus platinums and how this one turned out? This picture that we've got here turned out.
Okay, so this is a good question. Did I come back over here? Yeah, okay. Is everything okay with my screen share?
It is now. I got to pick, though. I got to pick and choose. Okay. I got your platinum up right now, yeah.
Okay, I just flipped back over to make sure I could see you.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, got it. All right. So The deal is with Legacy Collection versus Platinum. So the struggle or the demerit that first comes to mind for Legacy is that there are 7.
Mm-hmm.
And that means that, and I can sense this as a collector of Legacy collections myself, is that I don't feel complete with just 1 or even just 2.
Mm-hmm.
I really want to have all 7.
Same.
And if you get all 7, that is like, you put all 7 together, you like form a super grail. Because how many people have all 7?
I was going to ask you the same question. Give me a guess.
10 people on the high end.
You figure there's 100 out there. Well, there's like exactly 100 out there. You figure, let's just say 20 of them will never be found. Is that fair?
Yeah.
Or from each. So that leaves you 80 probably for each.
Yep.
I think you're right. I think, man, I mean, I could guess 3 or 4 people that have all of them, but after that, it would be people that I've never met.
Right. Exactly.
You know,
I know of 1 person, or I guess 2 people. I know of 2 people who have all 7. And so then there's probably a few more that maybe I'm just not thinking of. And then there's the mystery people who I've never.
Mystery people. Yeah. Some dude in Iceland. Yeah.
I don't think there can be.
Maybe.
Because we're saying that there's 80 available because, 20 got lost, destroyed, never pulled out of packs, which definitely happens, especially with 90s. If you look at pop reports, it's definitely the case. But even though there's 80 available, of the ones that are numbered to 100. So the 96s are numbered to 150, the 97s are numbered to 100. So there's a possible total of 100 people who can make the set.
True.
Of the 80 available, how many of those are in PCs of people who aren't going to make the full set? So like,
and that's you're looking at
exactly.
I mean, for the 1% of the 1% of the 1%, every single card you see on the screen, other than maybe the Jordan Fleer and the Star 101, is the grail card of their collection. 1% of 1% of 1% for sure.
Exactly right. So that's the thing about the Legacy collection is interesting. Like I think none of them as a standalone is super compelling. 97 row 0 is just like, people love that one.
I think it is. I think that one stands out. That's just me.
No, I know. They do stand out. I'm wondering if they stand out in a tier 1 sense.
Sure. And it's fair. It was it's like, again, demand, scarcity value between the platinums and the legacies. What and what, right? As we say,
right.
On the streets nowadays in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, it's what and what, right? But in the then demand and and aesthetics comes into play, and that's where it's like, whatever. If you think that the platinums belong in tier 1, they probably do. If you tell me the legacies belong, they probably do. If you say some of this and some of that, also perfectly fine. That's why these things aren't ranked, right? And that's why I wanted to get your insight on it. So it's interesting. So if there's one card on the screen, Chris, that you don't think belongs in tier 1, if you had to remove one, I'm telling you right now, take a card off of here and put it on tier 2. The one card you'd take off.
Well, the starting 5 is the enigma of this group.
No doubt.
Because, like you pointed out, the only difference between the base and it is the little starting 5 stamp in the top left.
Yep.
And counterfeits apparently are numerous, and it's just a card that's just such an enigma. It's so short printed. There's 5 of them. It's almost twice as rare as the essential credentials now, and it is twice as rare as the PMG green. So that's very appealing. But that one's an enigma. But I'm not going to say it doesn't belong, because if I say that card itself, not the mystery surrounding it, but just the card itself, it definitely is tier 1.
If you have a real one in your hand, it belongs.
Bingo, exactly.
Yes.
So
you got to pick one.
The one that I'm going to throw out.
Don't you dare.
What do you mean? Which one do you think I'm leaning to?
I had just tricked you into choosing the starting 5, which, the argument that we learned in law school was, you fell for my trap. That means You think the 86 Fleer 57 is a Grail card, Chris. You said it. It's too late. You can't change your mind.
I have to respect the people who
demand.
I'm gonna use this to take a cheap shot at a card. All right.
Okay.
Because there is no right or wrong answer to this, so I'm just gonna use this as a venue for agenda pushing.
Okay.
I think the grand finale is a little. Yeah, I'm gonna tell you what my gripe is with grand finale.
Okay.
The front side of the card is amazing.
Yeah,
love it. The gold, MJ in gold is a match made in heaven. But the backside, the fact that it's a handwritten serial number is a pet peeve.
Oh my God, here we go.
Yes, the handwritten serial number. All right, that puts it in tier 1.
You've heard it right here. You know what's coming on the Cajun Cardboard channel. A poll is coming. You have my word. The poll goes up tonight.
Let's go. Put that poll up, man.
You've got to choose between handwritten serial numbers on 90s cards and stamped serial numbers on 90s cards. And by the way, the denominator is stamped, okay? So it's the best of both worlds. I'm staying by it. I'm standing by my argument. We're going to put the poll up. We'll see. Not that the majority opinion matters, right? We know it doesn't. But it's interesting because just like I told you this, right? I ran a poll on my channel, coding or no coding. And I got like 400 votes. And Chris, I swear to God, it was like within 2 votes, 50-50. I couldn't believe it. Because we talk about that all the time. Same thing with the hand serial number. Chris and I are laughing because we've talked about this in the past, and there's no right answer. But it's funny because some people really prioritize hand serial numbered stuff, and Chris is like, I can't have it. Absolutely
no. I'm on the other end of it.
Not a Grail. Tier 3. Move it down. Get it out of here. It's not even a real serial numbered card. That's awesome, man. That's a great conversation. Did I tell you these pictures were going to be great conversation pieces and people were going to learn a lot?
Yeah.
That's awesome, man. That is Nat and Josh we talked about the starting 5, and the issue with the starting 5 is very clear. Is like the fakes far outweigh the legit, and none of us have really ever seen a legitimate one. No offense to one of our friends in the hobby or one of our acquaintances in the hobby who actually has one that might or might not be real. I don't know. I'm staying out of it. I don't have one, but I'd like to take a shot at a real one day, but let me know when you see one. Okay, so we've talked about the cards you owned. We went through yours. What did it add up to? I couldn't remember. What was that, like 7 or 8?
So on this tier 1, it would have 1.
Going back to yours. Let's go back to yours. I got you back on your screen share.
Okay. Well, so the platinum medallions did make it. So we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I believe I had 6 on tier 1.
That's it.
Yeah.
And what's funny, going back, let's rewind 10 minutes. When you were talking about your story about that star rubies, the gold star rubies, we'll call it, you made a huge sacrifice. You were an insert collector and a high grade insert collector. I know because I used to see your cards on your House of Jordan show. You did what I'm not capable of or willing to do. I can't do it. I can color up, consolidate, whatever the people want to call it. And we've got a friend of ours that we communicate with recently mega consolidated, like consolidate in all caps, right? Huge cards for huger, as they say in Louisiana, huger cards. I can't do it. And Josh and I talked about this on our episode, which you'll see. It actually came on tonight. We just can't do it, man. And not being willing to do that slows down the process of putting check boxes on the cards that you see on your screen. It's very difficult to go, scrounge up $100,000. It doesn't work that way. It's not easy, right? We've been in the hobby for a while, so there's a way to do that if you kind of sell some of your Jordan babies in high grade. But I'm not willing to sell 25 tier 3 cards to get a tier 1 card. I just can't do it. I don't know what's wrong with me. I can't do it. And I know you and Josh love it. Y'all love to kind of funnel. Now, look, Josh is a straight up liar. I'm just going to tell you, because every time he gets a chance, he's like, well, I have like 12 cards in my collection. You're lying, because I see your mail days and I know you got, 80 Larry Fitzgeralds. You got, you can say you have 3 LeBrons. We know you don't. So I think he thinks people aren't paying attention. And he's like, I only have 20 cards in my whole collection. I'm like, okay, let's just relax for a second. We know that's not true, but he likes to, over exaggerate or amplify what his consolidated method's been. So how many, was that your Jordan stuff? You really did get out of all the inserts.
I unfortunately did. It wasn't something that I wanted to do. but it was the hard choice. You know, it was the hard decision to say, hey, I really want this rubies, and that means I don't get to keep my Noise Boys PSA 10, and I don't get to keep my high voltage 500 BGS 85, and you know, I don't get to keep a cut above BGS 9. Like, it's a tough decision.
That is tough, man. That is tough, but I respect it, and it's, you know, everybody collects in their own way, and man, that is. And look, here's the deal. You know, you said you had 6 or whatever, but the platinum medallion could very well be on the screen. You know, this is just, you know, I'm doing my best here. Easily, argument could be made for the platinum medallion to be on the screen instead of the grand finale, or maybe the starting 5 or something like that. So,
if I'm being objective,
yeah,
grand finale is a better card than platinum medallion.
Well, it may not look better. Demand is huge,
and it's number like the ultra modern collector might not understand why we make such a big distinction for a grand finale number to 50 versus a platinum medallion number to 100. But in Michael Jordan collecting, the difference between a card having 50 copies versus 100 is very significant.
Yes.
It's Michael Jordan cards numbered to 50 or less. You know, I think you've probably got all of them on this screen outside of the 101s. Well,
you got those weirdo ones from the 99, you know, the quantum, whatever. You know, we're going to talk about that. We'll get there eventually. It'll be like 6 months from now, but we're going to get to tier 4. And we're going to talk about the quantums, you know. There's some weird stuff. There's some stuff out there that like I did not know this exists, and it's serial number to 25, and I guess it's important. I mean, it's serial number to 25, and it's Jordan. It's the 90s, but it's like I didn't even know it existed, and so it kind of loses the demand, you know, aspect, the demand criteria. All right, we're going to move on to tier 2. Otherwise, we're going to talk forever, and Christina's going to hate me, and you got stuff to do. So, you know, and your time's valuable. Let's move on to tier 2. But before we do, if you next acquisition, if you had an opportunity to acquire any other card on tier 1, we're going to take out the greens. Okay,
yes,
take out the PNG green, take out the EC now, the essential credentials now. What would be the next card you would acquire on the screen that you don't already have?
If like they were all on a table, at market value, and I had the opportunity to pick one, and I could
never sell it. You could never sell it. Otherwise, you know, you'd take the most valuable. You could never sell it. This is your card. You get to keep it forever.
Yeah. So exactly. Well, I mean, I will have to, you know, fund the card. I'll have to sell some stuff that I have and some stuff out. But I would go with the 98 PMG.
Agreed. It's my next. God, it's gorgeous, man.
Yep.
It's gorgeous. 98 versus the 97 championship.
98.
Both numbered to 50.
Yeah. And they're both amazing cards. But the 98 is, you know, if we have to split hairs here, the 98 is part of the Metal Universe lineage, whereas the 97 is part of a spin-off set of the Metal Universe called Metal Universe Championship. And that set didn't continue, whereas the Metal Universe one did. So
it would be, let's put it in perspective for ultra modern collectors, right? It would be like a Prism Fast Break 1/1 from, you know, 2018 versus a True Prism Black or a True Prism Nebula 1/1 from the next year.
A decent comparison.
Kind of decent. Yeah, it's hard to analogize between.
I'll tell you this: like the 97 PMG champ has a stronger market than the 98 PMG does. I mean, we just saw BGS 8. Granted, it was serial number 1 of 50, which some people think may have added a premium, but it sold for a lot of money. And you know, a BGS 8 is not a super coveted grade for a Jordan Grail. It's not a bad grade, but
yeah.
So that was a really strong price for that card. So I have to acknowledge that like the market says the PMG champ, and like, you know, it's the second PMG. Like when we're speaking chronologically, the PMG championship was the second precious metal gem to come out, whereas the 98 was the third. So that cuts in favor of the PMG champ. And people, you know, there's some people who love the Chicago skyline with the Willis Tower in the background.
Scope.
The scope finish is sick. Yeah.
So 2 questions come to mind. You were just talking, and I just forgot one because I'm getting old. I forgot. I had a great question. It was really hard hitting, great investigative journalism, and I forgot what it was. It's time to move on. We're going to talk forever if we do this. Let's move on to tier 2. You good with tier 2? Part 1. Remember, tier 2, for those of you watching, if you've missed the prior videos, go watch the prior videos. It kind of reads like a story. We're going in order. We've talked about tier 1 with a couple of other OG great Jordan collectors on the channel, Josh Dawson and Nat Turner. We're talking with Chris about tier 1 and tier 2. Part 1 and tier 2 part 2. So Chris gets all 3, and we're going to try to jam it into a reasonable time period. Tier 2 is twice as big as tier 1. It's 54 cards. An argument could be made for many of the cards on this picture and this picture, right? It's a lot to digest. It's like Willy Wonka threw up on the screen. It's fantastic and glorious to look at. A lot of these cards an argument can be made. They belong in tier 1, right? It's like choosing your all NBA teams last year. There's a lot of guys that made second team that we thought could make NBA first team, right? But there's a lot of competitors, a lot of competition for that. Chris, looking at, let's just say picture 1 first, the one that's on our screen right here. What card on here do you think has the best argument? Let's eliminate your 2 platinum medallions, which appear on the first row. Other than those 2 platinum medallions, what other card on here do you think has the best argument that it belongs on tier 1? One comes to mind for me, probably above all others because of the serial numbering. But which card do you think?
Yep. So there are 2 that I go to looking beyond the platinum medallions. And these 2 probably deserve consideration above the platinum medallions anyway.
Okay.
Would be the Super Rave, which is numbered to 50. And
there's two of them on this screen. A lot of people forget about the other one, but yes, right here.
And the classic 61, which you have the base and the subset.
The purple.
In full disclosure, I own a classic 61 from the base, the purple and red one.
Yeah.
But that's numbered to 61, and the Super Rave is numbered to 50. So those are rarer than some of the cards that were in tier 1.
Absolutely.
So, they have it, but they're not as iconic. So it's a trade-off there.
Yeah. It's tough when you throw everything into the hopper with demand, scarcity, value, and aesthetics. It's just tough, man. And look, that's why I love talking about it, but I did not enjoy making decisions. And again, it's just one man's opinion. And anybody who wants to could take these pictures and reorganize them in whatever order they want and use that as their checklist and their priority ranking. One thing where I'm going to go ahead and admit I'm an idiot. I did not realize it was the exact same picture, but when you look at them side by side, you can tell same damn picture of Jordan. I had no idea. Do you think that was a faux pas on behalf of Fleer Tradition? I mean, Fleer, or is that? Or I never noticed it. Did you notice that from the jump?
I have not. So I have never noticed until literally this instance that it's the same image on the base and the subset, which actually I think is pretty cool.
It is.
But I am aware of because I've never really studied the subset too close. Yeah. But because I don't have one, so I haven't stared at it. But the base version of the base, the base version from Fleer, from Fleer. Like there's a card that both these images are derived from, which is an even larger and even more zoomed out action shot from 98 Fleer that shows Jordan shooting this shot. If memory serves, I'm pretty sure I'll have to look it up after this episode, but I'm pretty sure that there's another card from 98 Fleer that's the base version that shows that image, but it's even more zoomed out and you can see the full background and it's in color.
Yeah. Of the cards that you see on this screen, a couple of cards kind of fall into that category of the 86 Fleer and the Star 101, which are not rare cards by 90s Jordan collector standards. They're not rare cards. In high grade, sure, you can make the argument, but they're not rare cards. There's, thousands, more than 1,000. That's not rare by Jordan 90 standards. The cards that kind of fall in line with those cards that kind of got up, that I kind of pushed into tier 2 strictly because of demand and just recognizability and how sought after they are, primarily by newer Jordan collectors, which is kind of where we're going with the whole project as we work our way down. The 93 Finest Refractor, the 93 Scoring Kings, and then the 86 Fleer sticker. Your thoughts on those three, and I'm not going to call those commodity cards because in high grade, they're anything but.
Right.
But those cards are not rare cards. Do you think they belong in tier 2 when you jumble up the 4 criteria that we keep talking about?
Yeah. So demand-wise, they are among the most demanded. That's the interesting trade-off between demand and scarcity. Is like you can get a starting 5, which the abundance of scarcity that surrounds that card seems to impact its demand. It seems as if on some level there's actually a positive correlation between supply and demand, that they don't work in opposite directions. That when there is you can take it too far, but when there's a decent number of supply, it actually drives up the demand. It increases the demand in some sense. But if there's too much supply, then it can totally kill the demand. And I think those cards, the 3 that you mentioned, fall into that category. And the Scoring Kings, it was a first of its kind. It was a first card to have the full foil background for Michael Jordan. The design to this day is just brilliant to me. Not necessarily the idea of associating lightning with a basketball card, although people continue to do that all the time. It works. But there's something about the photography and the action shot and the way it was cropped and the Scoring Kings logo that's in the bottom right and the way that they use gold foil and the spaced out name, just everything about the design of the card to me is like incredible. When I look at that card, I see a masterpiece. Now, somebody else might look at that card and see a cropped picture of Michael Jordan over a picture of a lightning strike. But I don't see it that way. To me, there's something more happening.
Dude, he's taking a picture. He's taking a jump shot in a lightning storm. That's what I see. I don't see it. You know what I'm saying? I don't see it laid over the top. Yeah. It looks like the dude's shooting in a lightning storm. So hold on. Stay with me here. I want to point something out. You're a huge basketball guy. You're a basketball savant. You live and breathe it. Look at Jordan's picture over here in the Molten Metal Fusion.
Yeah.
Okay. Picture perfect. 5-finger release, off the fingertips. His left hand, his guide hand is 5 fingers facing the side of the gem. It's raised. Both hands go up. You release with one hand. The other guide hand is right next to it.
Right.
Look at the picture in the Scoring Kings.
Yeah.
What the hell is happening here?
I don't know.
I never saw Jordan do that.
I don't know what that form is either.
No, is it Dylan Brooks? Is this a Dylan Brooks in a Michael Jordan jersey where you get your guide hand out of the way as quick as possible because somebody in 5th grade told you to do that?
I don't know. I'd love for somebody to video match that image and find the game that it came from.
What happened? Like, I've watched Michael Jordan take 10 billion jump shots, and 999,999,999 looked absolutely perfect technique-wise. That's the one. Weird.
Yeah.
So this is a coincidence, okay, that the most oddball card on this page, I would ask you to guess, but I know you're going to agree. It's in the bottom right, just like the starting 5 was in the bottom right. This is a weird card.
Yeah.
Tell us what you know about this card. Tell me if you think it's a tier 2 card. And again, we're talking the aesthetics, I think, hit on this card. The demand, not so much, because I remember one of these was for sale on eBay forever, and we all knew about it, and none of us really jumped on it, and it might have been the price. But scarcity, yes, and value, yes. Do you think that finest test refractor belongs on this page?
It's a great question, and I honestly don't know a ton about the test refractor. I know that it's from 95, which makes it early, which is good, and it sort of falls into that pattern of you have the 93 finest, amazing card, 94 finest, and then now you've got the 95. The 95 finest that I associate is the green one, or it's got a green border around it. And then this one is like, it's in that cluster, which is a good place to be. Like the first few years of finest, it's a great place to be. There's some mystery surrounding this card. Was it inserted in packs or it wasn't? There's 50 copies, or how many copies are there? I'm nowhere near knowledgeable enough to really weigh in on it, Brian.
Nor am I. So it's interesting. I don't know if it belongs. This is one of those deals where sometimes I had to kind of make a call and just get feedback from other people and then just go with consensus. It's in. So Well, it is what it is. It's in. It's a weird ball card, and it just happens to be in the bottom right. Like starting 5 was the weirdest card on tier 1.
Right.
How many of these, Chris? If you had to guess, how many of these you have in your collection, or are these the types of cards that you needed to sacrifice to make the moves into those 6 freaking monsters, or really 8 monsters that you showed us on your card ladder collection?
Yeah, it's a great. So I have, I believe, in my collection today, I have 3. I have the 2 platinum medallions and the 1 classic 61. But at one point in time,
that's the question. Yes.
At one point or another, I've owned everything on here except for the 2 subset platinum medallions I never owned.
Okay.
From 96, I should say. And I've never owned the 98 Greats platinum medallion either. Mm-hmm. And I haven't owned the subset of Classic 61. But everything else up there I have. And then on the next row, Cut Above owned it. Molten Metal Fusion owned it. Star Power Supreme never owned that one. 93 Refractor, yep, owned multiple copies. Same is true with Scoring Kings. BAMs, never owned BAMs.
Slam
Bam, sorry. Lynchpins have definitely owned, loved that one. 86 Fleer Sticker have owned, and Super Rave, no. And then down here, I have not owned the the profiles because it's got that hand numbering.
Oh, of course, yeah. Well, the plague.
You got
the plague, right? It's not even a real card.
Right? No, it's not. It's kindling. And then you've got the Rave there. Never owned that.
Yeah, that Super Rave kind of sneaks around. Like a lot of people, Nat came on here. Nat knows, he has more knowledge in his pinky than I have in my whole body. Sure. He's never seen a real one, he said. Now, one of them sold in December. Yeah. And it didn't sell for a crazy number. I mean, it was just over 5 figures, just over 10 grand, I think. Again, I don't know if it's real or not. It was in a BGS 9.5 slab, but he said he's never seen a real one. So that one kind of sneaks into that category with the starting 5. Like, man, there's maybe more fakes than there are real ones out there.
Yeah, for some reason, that is one of the cards that's plagued by that, is the 98, 99 Rave and Super Rave.
Scares people away.
Then I have owned Intimidation Nation. I have owned Thunder and Lightning. I have owned Hot Shots. I have owned High Voltage 500. Have not owned Diamond Dimensions. Have owned Platinum Medallion, and have not owned the Test Refractor. So I don't know, somewhere around half.
Yeah, it sounds like half. That's a lot of sacrifice. That's what I hear after you going through that whole panel. I hear a lot of sacrifice, a lot of commitment to kind of upgrading and kind of pushing your collection into those tier 1 type cards. And again, 3 of the cards you mentioned are tier 1 level cards. They just happen to appear on tier 2. And I corrected you and said Slam Bams. I think I've got a picture of Bams. That's supposed to be a Slam Bams. And I've got a picture of Bams because it's supposed to say Slam right here and Slam right there, and it doesn't. So I've got the wrong picture. I'm glad we caught that. So before we go to print and finalize, that needs to be a Slam Bams, not a Bams. All right, let's go to the next picture because there's a lot. Well, before we go there, one question. I felt like an idiot. I own the card, the Diamond Dimensions. And again, hand serial numbered. I get it. Did you know that these cards have creases in them and they were intended to be folded and stood up?
I always noticed the weird design. I didn't know that was the utility of it.
Look at the word diamond. Can you see it on your screen? I know it's small, but there's a white line running through. And then you look down here on dimensions. Look at my cursor. White line. And then down here at the bottom, there's another one. Josh Dawson pointed me onto this. And this is one of the downfalls of being a purely a vault collector, right? And we could talk about the pros and cons. This is the con, is I've never held the damn thing in my hand. And I acknowledge that's a con of being a vault person. There's it's kind of perforated. There's a built-in crease. You were intended to flip them and stand the cards up is what Josh was telling me. And I had never noticed those lines running horizontally across the card. And I was, once again, Josh made me feel dumber than I already am. I didn't know if you had ever noticed that. I thought it was the coolest thing ever. And I was like, please tell me there's no one out there who's taken this serial number to 100 card and folded it into a little, paper doll or whatever you're supposed to do with it.
That's what my brain went to is, has anybody done that? I'd like to see what it looks like, what the end result looks like.
How viral would an Instagram post go of somebody's Diamond Dimensions folded, like a raw Diamond Dimensions folded, over here? That would be interesting. Next to a picture of your Jordan, 86 Fleer sticker, perfectly centered on your book cover from 1987. All right, that's tier 2 in part 1 in the books. Where are we at? We're at 54. Oh my God. Okay. I'm gonna have to pay you for your time if we go much longer. All right, what stands out to you on page 2, Chris? Anything really stand out to you? Have you had a chance to check this one out? Anything that you think doesn't belong? Well, let's start this way. Anything you see on tier 2, part 2, and again, tier 2, part 2, tier 2, part 1, no distinction. It's not better or worse, A, B. It's just I couldn't fit it on one picture, so it's 27, 27. Any of the cards you see on the picture on your screen that you think belong in tier 1?
In tier 1?
In tier 1. Make an argument. If you had to make your best legal argument for one card to sneak into tier 1, which one card do you think could sneak in on this picture?
All right. Well, if I were going to make an argument of the legal variety, then I'd use precedent, and I'd say tier 1 features cards that are numbered to 100, and it's got a decent number that are in that, or numbered more. Maybe you've got some legacies numbered to more than 100, and you've got an offering of cards numbered to 100. Well, there's one card on this page that is unlike all the others, and that it's numbered to 100, and I don't see anything else on here close to that. I think you've got the Raves from 97, which are numbered to 399.
Yep.
There's the 96 EX 2000 credentials, which is numbered to 499. Other than that, I don't even see any other numbered cards.
Take it to .net, but 1,000.
Take it to .net to 1,000. That's right. But right next to take it to .net, you have the UD Choice Reserve Prime, or whatever the hell it's called. Premium Reserve.
Exactly. What the hell is it even called? That's the point. Yes.
I should know, Brian, because I own one.
Well, no, that's why it's in tier 2, right? Because demand is a big part of this project. Yeah. And you, like I said, more than 1% of 99.999% of the people that collect Jordan. You had a freaking show called, with the name Jordan in it. That's true. We don't really even know the name of the damn thing. And Josh and I were arguing about it. No, I think it's Premium Choice Reserve. No, it's Prime Choice Reserve. Right. The fact of the matter is, 1% of the Jordan collectors know what it is. 0% of the non-Jordan collectors would have any clue what the name of that card is, but it's serial number to 100. And it came out of a pack that was like 7 cents. And it's crazy. And for that reason, it's awesome. But also for that reason, I felt like it belongs in tier 2.
It does. It's totally a tier 2 card. It's not, but of the available options, that's the one that I.
That's your choice. That's the logical argument because it's the lowest serial number. Agreed. Yeah, and so it did just happen to work out that a lot of the serial numbered cards showed up in tier 2, picture 1. It doesn't necessarily mean that the serial number cards are more rare than some of the cards on this one, because some of the pop reports would indicate otherwise. That even some of the unnumbered cards are even more rare than the cards on the prior picture that are serial numbered. What do you think about this card that your 6-year-old niece drew right here?
Yeah, that's just, I mean, those are the 85 Prism Jewel.
Yeah. First of all, who is the guy? Who is the guy supposed to be? Do we know it's Michael Jordan? If it wasn't for the name, it could be Orlando Woolridge, dude. We have no clue who that is.
Yeah, I'm not. Yeah, I have nothing to add to that.
If I had put as much time into this Jordan hierarchy project as that artist put into that Jordan picture, we'd be done. But the whole project would be over. There'd be 4 cards, right? It would be like a retro PMG, and this is unacceptable. But what makes it more unacceptable, and again, somebody's going to hate me for this, but this is like a $40,000 card in a PSA 9 or something crazy, Chris. I looked it up on Cardladder, and the numbers don't lie. There is an addiction to completion when it comes to Jordan collecting. I know because I'm one of the people that is addicted. And this card is few and far between. It's very rare in high grade. There's 2 different versions, small box, big box, which I didn't know until somebody explained it to me. And apparently there's at least 2 people out there who want a PSA 9 more than a BMW 5 Series because they paid more for it.
Yep.
That would be the last card of the first 81 cards that we looked at that I personally feel the need to put in my collection. Would you agree with me on that? I mean, if I said rank them 1 through 81.
Yeah, I probably would tend to agree with that. It's not only doesn't really aesthetically appeal to me personally, although like you said, it does command a premium, it does appeal to others.
Oh, it's the
But
real deal.
it's also part of that like XRC category of Jordan cards, which you have like the Interlake up here, which fits into that category, and you have the 84 Star and the 85 Jewel Prism and stuff. Like that's just not a category that's ever really
that never appealed to you. And, I'm kind of Chris, I was torn in my, like, just to take you through my personal collecting journey. Only recently did I ever even purchase a Jordan Star card, and I felt, you know what? I've watched them. I've kind of soaked it in. Okay, I can recognize it for what it is. And I started trying to put that Jordan set together. There's 24 of them, I think, legit ones, 24 of them in BGS 8.5. Nothing crazy. But I'm with you, man. I never felt the allure of the Infmans or the Interlake or the Prism Jewel or the Nike promo. And I have the Nike promo, but it doesn't call to me the same way as, some of the cards from the 90s do. And maybe it's just purely aesthetics, or maybe it's just that I don't have enough frame of reference about the provenance of the card, where it came from or why it should be important. But clearly there's something to the weird little Prism Jewel sticker, because some people out there are willing to pay crazy ass numbers for that card. Yep. So I'm sure I'm going to get death threats, for making fun of the card, but or the sticker, I should say.
Me as well. I'm equally responsible for this.
Okay, well, we'll take it for the team. Anything else that stands out? What's the deal with this? I asked Josh, and he didn't really have a good answer. Why are these two Star Rubies, and I'm talking about this Skybox Premium Star Rubies right here with the red foil, and then this Pointman Star Rubies over here, those are not serial numbered, but the other Star Rubies are serial numbered. Is there a particular reason behind that, or am I missing something?
Well, it's the same with Platinum Medallion. So in 96, Ultra Platinum Medallion and Skybox Premium Rubies, neither of them were serial numbered, but they were short printed. So on the box of 96, 97 Ultra Basketball, in fact, there's a caption that appears I believe it's on the Series 1 box, that says includes Platinum Medallions which have 200 or fewer copies or something to that effect. And then Beckett Magazine has listed that there are 250 or fewer. So I'm not sure which one is right, but there's a notion there that those cards, those Platinum Medallions, were intentionally produced in a fixed quantity that was designed to be low, and that they wanted the public to know that.
Yeah.
And then the following year, I think they just took what they had experimented with in other 90s. So like, for example, you have the credentials from 96, 97 here. That was numbered to 499.
Correct.
And I think the manufacturers must have seen that this serial numbering is working. And I think they took that as a trial concept in 96 products, and then they imported it to design chase cards
a little more widespread the next year.
97 products.
Yeah.
That's what I think happened.
That makes sense. Two questions. I asked Josh Dawson the same question. The first question is, you see the 98 die cut Planet Metal on tier 2, but looking back and forth, you don't see the 97. Fair or not fair?
Well, the 98 is, I think there's a consensus that says it's a better card than the 97. It commands more of a premium in identical grades last time I checked. And I think it's rare. I think it was tougher to hit, and it's rare. So I don't have any qualms with that. Although you do have an insert here that I think is pretty common, which is the Meltdown. The Meltdown it's very tough in a high grade.
Right.
I think the PSA 10 pop on that is extremely low.
I reached on that, and there's definitely going to be. We're going to get to tier 3, not today, but we're going to get to tier 3, and I'm going to ask you these same type of questions, and I'm going to ask it to Josh. I'm going to ask it to a bunch of different people. What from tier 3 belongs in tier 2, and it was difficult for you to make an argument that any of the tier 2 on your screen belong in tier 1. We chose the premium choice, the prime choice, or whatever the hell we want to call it. But it wasn't a legitimate argument. You lost, right? Your client just hung. From tier 3 to tier 2, Chris, you're going to be able to pick like 11 cards that are better than the Meltdown, right? And we're all going to have great discussion about that, because what we do is, as the pyramid base gets a little bit larger, and remember, tier 3 is a full 81 cards. Tier 1 and 2 combined is the same breadth as tier 3, which is 3 pictures of 27 cards. We're getting to cards that mortals can collect, right? Even in high grade, we're getting to some realistic cards that a lot more people are going to be able to say, oh, I've got that one. Talk about this card. I've got this one, or I think I'm about to pick this one up, or they may be in negotiations to get them. Whereas tier 1, sometimes it's just not, and that's why I'm working my way down, because I think the videos are going to get better and better, because we're going to start talking about stuff that either A, people have more likely, or B, they don't have, but they can check a spreadsheet, which we haven't talked about. We're going to have a spreadsheet with card titles and pack odds, and they're going to be able to say, that looks awesome. I don't know what it's called. Let me check the spreadsheet. Oh, okay, now I know what it's like. I'm going to go search it on eBay. I'm buying that thing tonight. And I think that's going to happen with some of these cards as we get further down, because they're more reasonably priced. So good observation, man. The Meltdown could definitely be pushed down for sure. What about I have both golden touches, but only one Planet Metal. You think both golden touches belong in tier 2?
Well, I think once again, the second golden touch is more desired than the first. It's more demanded. It's scarcer. It looks better, I think. Although there's a weird surface defect that almost all of them have. Yeah, which is the ball that's embedded in the design, not the one in Jordan's hands, but the ball in the design, the center of the card design of the 97-98. Over here, it cracks and peels.
Heard. Yes.
And so that, when you see one that doesn't have that, it's nice. It's really impressive. So yeah, I think that once again, the second year one is more desired. It's more valuable. It checks the 4 boxes for being superior to the 96, but the 96 is a great card in its own right. It's perceived as an upper echelon insert, I think. Not quite in the same tier as the Galaxy or as the 97-98, but it's perceived as being up there. Yeah, it's not really on the same level as hardware. It's not really on the same level as Take It 2.
Yeah.
It is on the same level as like the Superstar die cut, I think. Or well, no, actually I don't think it is either. Maybe it's on the same level as the Skybox premium players, I'm sorry. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know, man. And then in the bottom right, you've got I
put premium players and Meltdown on kind of the same level.
Well, premium players, if I'm not mistaken, had pretty tough pack odds.
Yeah,
it's pretty rare. And then the 95-96 Beam Team die cut in the bottom right.
Josh and I talked about this when it came. If I said, "Hey, throw out the other 3 criteria. We're only talking about aesthetics." Yeah. This one checks a lot of boxes. Yeah. This one checks a lot of boxes. Yeah. And it's sort of forgotten, man. It's not as forgotten as the 93 Beam Team, which is really an afterthought for a lot of collectors. But the 92 gets all the pub, even though it's significantly more readily available. The 95, it's also got, obviously, because it's Stadium Club, it's got a members-only variation. Very low pop count in PSA 10, especially in comparison to the 92. I've got the 92 in here, which is probably would you agree it's probably the highest print run of any card in here? I'm trying to guess offhand. Again, this is off the cuff.
Especially when, your criteria were combining the members only and the base into one. Mm-hmm. If you do that for 92, I believe that the stated print run of the members only was the way that they distributed them was as entire sets.
Sets, for sure.
There's 10,000, I believe. Mm-hmm. So I believe there's 10,000.
Is it that many? Is it that many? Wow, I had no idea.
Just the members only. So if there's 10,000 members only, then however many more non-members only that there are, I think you're probably right. You're probably right. That's probably the most. But
here we are, along with the 93 Scoring Kings. When you talk about, I don't want to say starter inserts, right? Because if you buy the PSA 10, it can be more than starter level prices. But like, if Chris, if somebody came to you and said, "Hey, I've never bought Jordan cards from the '90s. I've been collecting 2022 select football, but I want to start buying Jordan cards from the '90s. Which three should I buy?" I know what your first answer is going to be. Well, which ones do you like the look of the most, right? That's kind of what this project's about. That's your first response, and it should be. And in fact, that's a lesson for everybody watching this show. If somebody asks you, what should I buy? Don't give them an answer, because they're basically asking you to guide them in the right direction, and they think enough about what you know about the hobby. Say, which one do you like the most? And then we can talk about them, and you can make your own decision. But if you were going to say which cards, inserts and parallels from the 90s are the cards that are sort of the foundational pieces, which would you say?
Well, 92 Beam Team for sure.
For sure.
And there's a lot of nostalgia for that card as well. There's almost like it's almost like there's a group of people who have a lot of nostalgia for 80s cards, and it sort of bleeds up into it cuts off at the 92-93 season. So like,
I agree.
They'll be interested in Total D from the rack packs of 92 Fleer. They'll be interested, Team Leader.
Yeah.
And they'll be interested in Beam Team.
Yeah.
But then from beyond that, they're not so interested. Like 93, 94 onward, they're not so interested. Which incidentally is a year during which Michael Jordan was retired.
Thank you. That's it. That's the divider, right?
Yes. Yeah. And so, and then there's a different group though, and this is more the group I belong to, which is more interested in everything from 93, 94 and later. Yes. So we like from Scoring Kings to, the PMGs, but then there's a different group that loves, from the 84 Star and the 86 Fleer up until Team Leader, Beam Team, and that era. So like it's interesting.
It is.
That splits like that.
I try to explain the Jordan collecting world. And by the way, we haven't mentioned, then there's the people who want to buy Exquisite, right? Which is freaking awesome. And I don't own any, and you won't see any of them in this project, not because they wouldn't be tier 1 cards, simply because they don't meet the criteria, simply because there's only so much space to create a project. And that is a whole project in and of itself, but amazing pieces, works of art, just absolutely beautiful cards. All of those inserts, all the memorabilia inserts in the autos and stuff like that from Exquisite are just freaking fascinating. Do you have any Exquisite stuff? I haven't seen you flash much. I don't own one. No. Not one.
No, I mean, I as much as I love and admire the Exquisite, there's a couple things that make it not undesirable, because I would love to have them. Let's not get it twisted. But when I have to rank things, I put them a little lower. They're a little less desirable because, number one, I think LeBron James defines Exquisite. I think he is the player that is most closely associated with that brand. It started during his rookie year. It chronicles the first half decade or more, a little bit more of his career. He is the figurehead of Exquisite. And so while that's well and good, Michael Jordan is the defining figure of 90s cards.
Yeah.
So I just associate Jordan more with 90s cards. And then also the fact that they're not playing years sort of is a bit of a turnoff. Yeah, it is. It does matter.
It's one of those deals where, like, again, Chris, remember, I don't want to get ahead of myself, but I have a feeling at some point, thousands of people that watch this video, it might be 10 years from now, right? There might be tens of 20s that watch it at first, but thousands of people who have not collected Michael Jordan cards may one day watch these videos and be listening to the words that come out of our mouth. And you have to find ways to limit the scope of even just collecting the one player, Michael Jordan, because if you do not, you better either A, have the last name Musk, or B, you're going to be having to buy cards in low grades, and your brain's going to freaking explode, man. Like I have consciously, and clearly you have as well, eliminated Exquisite from the conversation, eliminated retro cards, in the 2000 non-playing years, out. I have to draw the line somewhere, out, gone. North Carolina jersey stuff, out. For me, I've also included autographs, out. memorabilia out. I had to. Otherwise, it would have consumed me, man. I mean, hell, Chris, we're going to look at over 300 cards here. Even without autographs, memorabilia, we could have gotten to 500 inserts or parallels, not even including base cards, quite easily. And by the way, base cards aren't included in this project. And you and I can both agree, other than the rookies, right? We saw the Star and the 86 Fleer. You and I can both agree there's some freaking badass base cards out there. I think of 97 Metal Universe. I think of the EX 2000, right? Those are the two that come to mind. What are some other base cards that you can think of that are just like filthy? Just
it's
awesome.
It's subset, but I think it was 95, 96 Fleer had a subset called Electrifying.
Electrifying. Oh my gosh. Yes.
It's just
like Coin King 2.0 and it's badass, right?
Yeah, there's that lightning theme again. Yeah. I mean, I'm partial to everything 93, 94 Ultra because that was like probably the first hobby box I ever opened. And, I love the base card from that set. I love parallels. I love parallels to the base set, which sort of means I like the way base cards look, and I do. And I like the stats on the back as opposed to a caption,
Yeah, I remember you talking about that on House of Jordans, and I remember thinking, no shit, because when I was a kid, I was collecting baseball cards, sadly, right? Sad story there, but I was collecting, sorry, I just lost people. I was collecting baseball cards, but I love to look on the back, and then you'd find some dude like Steve Carlton or one of these guys that have played 21 years back in the day, and so they had all their stats and they had to shrink them and you could barely even read the numbers, but they had to get all the stats on there. They had every damn year of these people's career. And, some of those old white dudes that played baseball in the 70s, man, they play like 22, 23 years, especially the pitchers. Jim Cott comes to mind, Steve Carlton, Nolan Ryan, for God's sakes. He pitched for 4 decades. He was the Vince Carter of baseball. But I'm with you, dude. When you said that the first time I House of Jordans, I was like, God, this dude pays attention. He's a nerd like me. He's a math nerd. He loves this.
Guilty.
But yeah, man, there's a lot of great stories. What do you think? Okay, I'm going to ask you 2 more questions, then we're going to kill it. We're already at 1 hour and 16. The first question is, and you don't have to talk long, Essential Credentials is serial number to 499.
Yep.
The 2 Rave cards you see on here, we've seen the Super Raves. These are the Raves, and they're numbered to 399. If you had to choose one of those 3 cards, which of the 3 would you choose and why?
I would take the Essential Credentials, and I just, it came earlier. It's got some historical significance, maybe a little bit more than the Raves. And then I just love the way it looks. There is another card that has a similar design as the Hoops insert. There's Palette, Skyview. Yes, Skyview.
Yeah.
And similar to Skyview, Michael Jordan, on Skyview, Michael Jordan's head sort of got
alien
weird way.
It's Sam Cassell, that's why. It's not Jordan. Sam Cassell snuck his ass in the photo shoot. It's weird.
The cropping is fine. But you can't see his full face, which some people, will quibble with. I don't mind. I always thought that was a really, really beautifully designed card.
Agreed.
So I go for it for aesthetics. I go for it because it came earlier and was part of that experimental first year of really trying to turn serial numbered cards into chase cards, and rookie year for Kobe. I like that one better.
There's a couple of other Jordan cards with that sort of window pane effect. You know what I mean? I'm thinking Natural Born Thrillers. Am I wrong?
Oh yeah, from 95, 96. Yep.
Kind of similar window pane in the background with the sky blue and stuff like that.
Yep.
And then, of course, you got some other cards with the sky in the background. We could go through a whole thing. We got the Electricity with the Scoring Kings, the Electrifying, the Electrified. Then we got the clouds in the background with Soaring Star. Soaring Star's high flying. The credentials we're looking at. That's interesting. Josh said the same thing. Josh Dawson said the same thing, and I tend to agree with you guys. I own both of these, but if you made me choose, I would choose this one, despite the fact that it is serial numbered 100 higher. I would. Okay, I lied. I have 2 more questions. This is easy. Josh strong-armed me to putting this weird-ass SPX
rounded Hollow Views or something, right?
I don't know. It's a ProMotion SPX. He's like, it's very, very rare. And then I did the pack odds, and I was like, dude, do you realize how hard some of the other pack odds are? This one is very sus, as the kids say nowadays. That's what my daughters would say. That's sus, suspect. But Josh Dawson strong-armed me,
I always veered away not totally, but on some level, I think like unconsciously, I veered away from, or subconsciously, I should say, from Upper Deck and from SP and SPX, like the Upper Deck brand family. I never really went for it or liked it as much as I like Topps and its family of brands, Chrome and Stadium Club, or Fleer and Skybox Premium. And I always, your EX, which was part of that family. I always liked those better for whatever reason. And I never really gravitated to the Upper Deck or to the SPX. And not as much. I still love those cards.
Yeah.
But I never gravitated to them quite as much. And so that's why, like, this card, my eye just rolled over it because it's not even every other card on this tile I'm intimately familiar with. I've seen the image dozens and dozens and dozens, but that card, it's never been on my radar.
It snuck in. And look, there's one person to blame. I hear what you're saying, and I think the same thing. Josh doesn't know his cards, man. He just doesn't know.
The likelier scenario is he knows better than us. So we should
listen. You know how you and Chris are always looking for the title of your crossover episode. This title is going to be Josh Dawson doesn't know shit about cards. That's what people
co-sign that.
All right, he knows we're kidding. But it's funny because you read my mind, and the very last question I was going to ask you, which is a question I think a lot of people are going to like, your best and favorite product from the 90s, all things considered, the base cards, the parallels, the inserts, the year, and the product. What is it? If you had to choose one, I know mine. I have not wavered on it. It is unquestionable what mine is, but I'll save mine because you may not know what it is. I don't want to influence you. What is yours? One product, 1 year.
Okay. That makes it a little different. All right. If it was like one product and I get to use the whole every year it was made.
1 year.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm sure we're in agreement on this. It's 97, 98 Metal Universe.
You nailed it. Look, everybody is entitled to their opinion, but every other opinion is wrong. Right. Is that fair?
They're entitled to their opinions, and we're entitled to our opinion about their opinions.
That's right. And we're right and they're wrong. So it's one of the things that you and I can definitely agree on. We always fight. It's funny because people don't get to see the conversations that take place in our chats or whatever. But Chris is, the younger generation. I'm the older generation. I repeatedly use the term eye test. And Chris is a huge proponent of analytics. I acknowledge analytics. He acknowledges the eye test. He tolerates my eye test observations. I tolerate his analytics. And the funny thing is, we both think both are important. We just think that I think that analytics support my eye test while I can still see at my age. And Chris thinks the eye test supports the analytics, which are first and foremost. And I think Chris might be winning because 30 out of 30 teams in the NBA have like a freaking team of analytics. And I don't think that I'm trying to think maybe the Charlotte Hornets, since they suck, use the eye test for everything. Maybe that's why Chris is right and I'm wrong.
The only thing I'll say, Brian, your eye test isn't the average eye test. You're a basketball coach. You've coached NBA players as they've been coming up through the ranks. So your eye, there are analytics departments, but those coaches are still coaching from the eye test as far as I can tell. So maybe it's good to have a bit of both.
Well, it's funny, and I'm not going to name drop. I'm going to, what is this called? A cliffhanger or a tease. I'm having lunch on Wednesday with an NBA player here in town. So I'll talk about it on the channel. It's always interesting and fascinating. I've got to jot some questions down that I'd like to ask this guy because I think it'll make for great content. But it's always fun to chat with those guys because they've had some interesting careers. And this guy's career was absolutely hilarious because he was discovered, Chris, and I'm going to see if you can guess this, all right? You might not be old enough, okay? I'll give you a hint. He's from Louisiana. He is 6'11", arguably 7 foot. He was discovered, no bullshit, by his college coach bagging groceries in a grocery store. He went to check out. The college coach did. He looked at the guy, looked up, and he's like, who the hell are you? You're coming to play basketball. And he taught him how to play basketball. He had an NBA career. He was an NBA journeyman, rebounded the ball pretty well, but almost 7 foot. I'm not going to let you guess. You can guess off air, but that's the cliffhanger right there. I'll let you think about it and you can guess off air because I don't want you to get it right and then I've spoiled my tease.
Fair enough.
All right. That's it, Chris. Thanks so much for joining the show. Again, we could have done this for 7 hours quite easily and probably stayed on tier 1. Are you good to come back on and talk about some of the weird stuff in 3 and 4? I'd love to get you back on.
I'd love to. You remember those House of Jordans episodes? Those would go on for 7 hours. So
I do. I remember.
Why?
Yeah, I remember thinking I must be the dumbest person in the world. You're talking about like the shape of clouds in the background of this card or the way that the columns look on Competitive Advantage. And I was like,
doing that in Christine.
I was like, does he have is it written down? Did he really look at the columns on Competitive Advantage and like, is it Corinthian? Is it Doric? Is that Ionic? And like talk about the grooves. And I was like, this guy loves this shit. I was like, I want to be like him. So yeah, we'll get you back on. That's a promise if you're willing. And I appreciate you joining us. And hopefully the project gets off to a success. Again, it's not a right or wrong. It's just a big Willy Wonka regurgitation of color and some really cool images of the goat. So hopefully you guys enjoy these videos. Thank you guys for watching. Chris, thanks for joining us. Keep collecting, stay positive in the hobby, and peace.